All right, Kings. So I'm sharing this conversation to be very blunt, very clear about the state of affairs and what's going on, not only in the tribe, but in the world. And whatever happens in our tribe is a reflection of what's happening in the world. We are microcosms of a bigger macro situation of our world. And there's so many things to consider, but there are the things that we must choose to consider, right? There's a lot of different paths to take, but which paths do you choose to take? Which ones are the ones that you determine to participate in those conversations? Not just the decisions to make, but which decisions should you even consider? Right? Like that's a more granular conversation, especially around today's topics. There's so many things, right, to make decisions on, but there's a filter that happens before that I realized, and it happened because my phone was down, that caused me to ask another question. Powerful questions is what produces powerful answers. Powerful answers can cause you to take powerful actions, right? Doesn't mean you will, but if you ask the right question, you can win. The thing that I realized is that we are even considering questions that are inappropriate. Somebody asks you an inappropriate question, you can give an inappropriate answer. That's it. Sometimes we are challenging questions that don't even need to be challenged because it takes processing power, time, energy, and decisiveness, all of those things in order to answer a question. But there's a step before you even answer a question. A fork in the road. Before the fork in the road is, do I even deal with these questions? And that started to happen with me and my wife because my phone was down. So my phone was down and she was mentioning all these things that I was normally responding to, but I could no longer respond to these particular things because I was not in the loop on this thing called the news. I didn't know what was going on social media. I wasn't receiving the news. I have a computer, but I just don't choose to get into go on my computer and search up the news. And because I didn't, I get my news from my phone. And because I was out of the loop, I could not engage her on these questions. And I started to question and say to myself, well, why am I even dealing with some of the shit that you asking me about? Why is it even important for us to deal with some of these things around politics that I'm not going to take no action on and I don't have no recourse on? Why are we even engaging in that particular conversation? Like, it's so interesting how people act like they must be informed around certain things, but they have no intention on taking action around those particular things, right? If I have no intention on running or supporting a political party or doing, there's no reason for me to engage my brain and spend a tremendous amount of energy debating what these people are doing. If I'm not going to get into the market of real estate and I'm outside of it, it doesn't make sense for me to spend a whole bunch of time philosophizing, right? And coming up with all this philosophy around what's going to happen in the real estate market. If we eliminate the topics and the questions, we filter the ones out that have no relevancy to our world, it gives us more energy and time to participate in the questions that actually do. This was profound for me, Kings. This was super profound. And it happened because I started to realize that this machine, this device, this particular phone was stealing. It was stealing my time. It was stealing my attention. And it was causing me to consider information and questions and causing me to actually process it. Just the idea of saying no to something causes me to process something. If I get an alert on my phone and it dings me and I have to actually reject it, I have to spend time to process it. If I allow my phone, if I don't have it on do not disturb, I have to stop it myself to stop the alarm, to stop the phone call. We have to put in place a filter beyond the filter that stops it. Some of the highest achievers in the world have been doing this for years because they put people in place of those things. They put secretaries in place. Those are called gatekeepers. They put gatekeepers in place to even filter out so that people, they don't even have to reject people to do it. So I'm gonna ask you to consider, right? Just like I considered with my phone, not just social media, consider all communication. Who has access to you and who can send you information? Because every time you have to reject it, you have to say no. Then I'm going to also suggest that you consider even the relationships that you have, putting something in place with the people who you consider connected with, the people you hold accountable, putting an agreement in place with them around conversations you're not going to have with them, so that you don't even have to reject them. I put something in place with my wife that I thought was beautiful. They say, hey, listen, I will no longer be engaging around these particular conversations around here, around topics of gossip around these politicians. I don't want to engage them. So I don't want to, you don't have to tell me something and I have to reject it or I have to brush it off, because I'm not choosing to be a politician. I'm not choosing to deal with those particular topics. I am choosing to educate people, and that's what I will to talk about. So I'm going to share a little bit about what I feel, especially around in American politics, around something that I think that would give us all some perspective and allow us to be powerful in our decision making around it, because right now we are the most distracted around that. Then there's also a conversation around what's going on in COVID, right? There's all this stuff going on around COVID, and people got to make decisions around that like how you're going to treat your kids and all that, and what's going on with other people's children, and what's going on with going out in the world. There's a question around that. So let's consider this around politics first. There are three judicial branches, right? I mean, there are three branches of government. There's the executive branch, there's the legislative branch, and there is the judicial branch. Right now, we are all looking to spend our time and vote towards the executive branch, which is only one branch, where in case the other two branches are designed to be separate to check the other branches. But because of this distraction, because of all the noise that's happening, especially from our particular president, there is a dark magic, right? There is this thing that keeps flashing and distract us. But what we're not paying attention to is our other branches of government are being influenced, specifically our judicial branches. The current president has appointed almost more than 200 judges into office, and giving them the ability to now, I mean, some of them will be in place for years, for the next generation or two generations, even a Supreme Court justice right now. And if you consider what would happen to reshape the landscape of our, of the criminal justice system, of what's going to happen in terms of laws being executed, because they don't make the laws. All they do is execute right or wrong and then hand out sentences along that. But if one person influences another branch, then you have an impact. That's what we haven't been paying attention to. So we get to actually make a conscious decision based on some information on something we can act on. Why should we act? We should act because we want to influence what's happening in our local government. We should act on what we can do in our particular environments to promote local legislation. I want to salute to the King Kevin Johnson, who hosted a local upcoming politician in the neighborhood in Brooklyn. And what I saw in that and what I loved about it was actual taking real action. Okay, so we could debate about what's going on in politics, or you can say, hey, listen, you know what? I'm going to host something in my home and support a local politician, because that actually moves things forward. It's an action that's resulted in something. I want to do something about it. I'm not going to spend time talking about what's going to be the next president, or why this president did this and what this president is going to do, if I'm not going to do something about it. So that trickles down into all of the areas of your life. It's the exact same thing that happens in your body. People talking about all the different diets that they have out there and all the different foods and what happens with keto and all, but they're not taking any action. What are you willing to do right now to take action in your body around what type of foods you put in and what type of things you're going to do physically, right? We spend all this time talking about sports and all this stuff that people do. What are you doing to entertain yourself in a healthy, particular way in terms of sports or whatever else? In your family, we know what's going on in everybody else's family, who's sleeping with who's doing this, who's doing that, who's got a relationship, who's getting divorced. Are you about to get divorced? Right? Spending all this time talking about, those aren't questions. See, nobody brings me questions or brings me information around what's going on with celebrities or hip hop or people don't bring those conversations because I'm ignorant around it. I don't know much about it and I don't engage in those conversations. So I have more free brain power to process decisions around shit that actually matters to me. I have more power to activate shit around questions that can actually produce results for me because I've already pre-filtered out shit that is not relevant to me in my world. I've spent that time already. You can spend more time preemptively removing questions that you don't even have to engage on because they're not important to you. Because I've already decided, hey, listen, here's what's important to me around that particular thing. Here's what I can take action on and do something around that particular thing. Then I can spend time and energy considering it. But if in the end I can't do anything about it, let's not have a conversation around that. Let's not, because it doesn't benefit me and it's stealing from my time, right? I want to share this. I had a powerful conversation with the King Matthew earlier, and I wanted to share this, is that we can't save living for last, right? It's a book. It's something that I started writing on in this book, pouring into this book a few years ago, never finished it. Brothers that know me, man, I got so many books that I started and I haven't finished. Guilty as charged with that shit. But there's a book that I'm working on. Don't save living for last. See, every day is a gift. Every minute that we have is a gift. All of our time is a gift. People say that time is money, and I say that's bullshit. Time is time. Time is way more precious than money. We have given money the most prominent and dominant set of value in the world, as we would even equate time being to money. What if we thought time was time? If you start to talk to me about shit that doesn't matter to me, you taking my time, that's way more critical, way more detrimental to me than if you had taken my money. If I spend time considering things that don't benefit me or actually distracting me from going after my goals, you took my time. I would like us to promote time, the actual minutes of the day, to being the paramount, the most critical thing. No longer is time money. Time is time. Money is time. So when somebody says time is money, say no. Money is time. Like, you wasting my money, you more importantly, you could be wasting my time. And that is what I'm paying attention to. So Kings, we're about power. Conversation around Black Warrior King is always going to be around power and how can we get more power. You get more power by getting more time. You get more time by eliminating distractions. We all have the same amount of time every single day. We give the most of it to other people. And I think that we need to consider that. We give it to other people because we allow ourselves to be soaked into communications that we don't need to be involved in. We spend a lot of time on social media and in these different places sharing of ourselves with people who don't matter and giving time and dedicating time to that and receiving information around people that don't matter and making decisions and challenging questions that don't matter. Being that time is already a finite thing, we know how much we're going to have. We need to do exactly what it is that we talk about in this tribe, which is first dedicating 10% of that time to ourselves. We got 24 hours a day. That means that 2 hours and 40 minutes should be dedicated to yourself that don't have nothing to do with nobody else. I get up in the morning and I build my foundation every single day for myself before I talk to other people because that's important to me. Yes, do we all fall off? Yep, we do. But the humanity of us doesn't stop us from having a target every single day, going after it, pouring into ourselves first, giving time to ourselves first, having something that makes us happy, fun, having a hobby, something that makes you better, something that you enjoy, that at the end of the day, you could say you enjoyed something. I enjoyed my life. Happiness is the new currency. If happiness was on the stock market, people would have no value in it because people spend all of their time trying to do something, so that in the future, one day, they could have this thing called happy. They spend all this time making decisions on shit and challenging questions on shit that don't even matter, so that in the future, maybe somebody else will do something about it. When are they going to come out with this? When are they going to invent that? When you could spend that same time dedicated inventing the shit that we talk about for ourselves. If you care about politics, if you care about what's going on in society, you want to change the laws, pick a goddamn branch of government and go after it. If you want to make laws, follow and support somebody in legislature. If you care about what's going on in the judicial system and what's going on, become a judge or support somebody in that particular area. If you're going to be in politics and on the executive side and making the executive decisions, you should be either putting yourself in play or finding yourself how you can support in a real way, a physical way of yourself. If you're not, take all of that time back and get more capital in terms of happiness for yourself, for your family, for your community, and for your tribe. That is my word. So, Kings, I'm sending you this blessing. I'm sending you this message. I hope that it is a benefit to all of you. Share this with somebody right now.